Good morning again. Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing another video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And this is an analogy. It dovetails with the previous video I just made about neurochemistry in relation to a video I watched on YouTube by a young woman, and I left a link in that video if you want to check it out. But it's not necessary to absorb the meaning of this one. I want to mention an example, kind of an analogy, as I said, where in modern pharmacology and psychiatry, especially in neuroscience and in molecular biology, this person I just mentioned is a molecular biologist, there's a hugely dominant and prevailing opinion, and it is an opinion, that neurochemicals are extremely influential, when in fact there's little to no evidence that I've seen that might account for the opposite being true, where neurochemicals reflect a person's environment or their mood rather than dictate it. There's a difference. There's, in theory, there could be a difference, is all I'm saying. We do know that they exist. I'm not debating that. We do know that they're found in proportion to certain moods and behaviors. I'm not debating that either. I'm debating the order in which the analysis is occurring, and the fact that it errs on the side of selling pills. It errs on the side of oversimplification, which happens coincidentally to support the pharmaceutical industry. So I don't want to dive down that rabbit hole again, but what I want to do is tell a story. I want to tell a fun little anecdote about an engineer, an old-timey person, maybe in steampunk times back in the day when there were lots of locomotives and saloons in the Old West here in America. And they find a device, they being some, ranch hands or whoever, explorers, they're hiking around, they find some kind of, machine. And they don't know exactly what it is. It has certain features and behaviors, and it's not entirely relevant or important what its purpose is, but they are mystified by this thing, and they find some interesting uses for it, including entertainment and other things. But long story short, the town's engineer takes a look at it, and he gives everybody his opinion, his analysis of it, and what its capabilities are, apparently. And he's very scientific, very rigorous and methodical, and does his job very well. And they say, well, thank you, that's very helpful, the people who are holding on to this thing. And they ask him to come back again after he reviews his analysis and maybe take another look at it. So he does. There's a point here. So he comes back next week, and he brings his toolbox with him and goes a little bit further into investigating it, trying to figure out its origins and what it could possibly be for. And it has some moving parts, and he uses his tools to pry off a panel, so to speak, in a way that doesn't damage it. And he discovers inside a gearbox, a working, very intricate and specialized gearbox that obviously has something very important to do with its functioning, whatever that is. So the people had been, in the week where he was gone, reviewing his analysis and such, they had found a few purposes for this device, such as, it could slice and dice, whatever, it washed laundry. They found purposes for it. And use your imagination. I'd have to think a little harder about that. So he comes back and he says, okay, well, I'm very happy that there has been no problems, and my analysis just confirms what I already told you, except for this one detail. I've discovered a gearbox, and it's hidden away. It seems very important, and it's super sophisticated. So just want to mention that. And they say, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because since we first got this thing, it hasn't been slicing and dicing so well. It was helping us out, originally in the first couple of weeks, but then it's slicing, but it's not dicing, whatever. So he says that the engineer who is reverse engineering this thing says, look, okay, well, it's got to be the gears. I mean, I did notice one thing when I went in there. I noticed that I could make some of the gears spin faster. I noticed that I could make some of the gears spin slower. And turns out I'm paid by the hour. So hold on a second here. Let's take a real deep look at this thing. And he brings out his toolbox again, and his extra toolbox, his specialty set. And he starts tinkering around, and he says, look, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you 3 different choices. I don't want to spend too much time here. It's really your thing, but I'm going to sell you 3 different options. And one of them makes the gears go faster. One of them makes the gears go slower. And then the third one makes different gears do different things faster and slower. And you'll just have to try it out and see what happens. And then we'll review again in a month or something. So you see where this is going, right? He sells them his pills, assuming that the gearbox must be the source of the malfunction, not really understanding the relationship of the parts to the whole. And his story gravitates towards the gearbox being of total significance because it was his special discovery and he can claim some kind of ownership of its discovery. And it's his specialty. They can't do anything about that. They're not qualified or skilled in taking this thing apart. So it turns out he's making, a lot of money off of this thing. Okay, I don't mean to be cynical, and I do understand that certain people benefit from medication. Are things overprescribed? Is the pharmaceutical industry really out to protect and serve their customers, or are they trying to pay their own bills? Do they have shareholders? Do they have bills and a board to report to? Do they have stakeholders, not just shareholders, but people who are employees and the customers themselves? I mean, it's a proper business. Many of these pharmaceutical companies, I don't want to name names, but they are legitimate, real corporations, just like, any retail outfit, any, manufacturer of anything. And they have a deeply vested interest in making sure that everyone stays on the program, that you are broken, that you are the problem, and that you need to be fixed with a pill. I'm not making this up. There, as an aside, in conclusion, I'm just over 7 minutes. I don't know if the story was entertaining, but it's illustrative, I hope. Our medical industrial complex, our hospitals and doctors and our entire infrastructure in this part of the world, in America, offer 2 types of service: drugs and surgery, with some, benefits around the edges, such as, therapy or physical therapy, but it's in support of these other campaigns that are based deeply in drugs and or surgery as a solution to people's problems. And I'm not even recommending an alternative. I'm not saying that holistic medicine is necessarily better or even legitimate. I'm not suggesting, anything in particular. I'm just pointing out that there's an interest. And many times an interest becomes a conflict of interest, especially when there's false advertising, especially when the industry is so deeply ingrained in social fabric that it's controlling education, upper education. It's putting representatives into classrooms. It is requiring, in order for doctors to get their degrees and diplomas, to sign up for a salesman package. And I'm not even kidding about this. And the biggest problem, and the last thing I want to say, the real last thing, is that we're being told a lie about how the brain works. They don't really honestly know. I'm hearing this too. I'm hearing, yeah, we still don't actually know, but we have found all these chemicals. So here's a pill for you until we find out. Well, how do we know they haven't already figured it out? I don't know. Anyway, reach out with questions or comments. Have a safe, healthy, happy day. whiteheartrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.